Now, I know not every fan of Division 2 is going to be interested in Remnant from the Ashes. And in fact, I'm pretty sure, most of you are probably interested in PvP, and obviously Remnant doesn't have that. But there is a sizable portion that is interested in the PvE aspect alone. And a lot of players who just like the grind for different gear, different, builds, and just kind of combining different sets and different items to make a more powerful or unique playstyle for yourself. And that's a lot of what Remnant from the Ashes offers. I mean, just the diversity of builds and just kind of fun experimenting with different things and kind of collecting all this loot that you might not necessarily know how to get. So in this video, I'm going to be looking at Remnant from the Ashes survival mode, and that comes with the Swamp of Corsus DLC. Now, I'm not going to talk through the entire video. I am going to just let the gameplay play. That way, if you do want to see more of the actual game, if you were just interested in how the actual game continues on without just, nitpicking very interesting moments, that way you can actually see the full spectrum of the gameplay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to let you actually see up until, a first boss run. So for those of you that are interested, I will be showing one full boss run through survival. Now, of course, it does keep going after that until you die, basically, but you will get a good feel if this game is actually interesting to you. Getting into survival mode is pretty simple. All you need to do is just go to your base, go to the World Stone, and click on the survival mode. Now, it does have a variety of difficulties you can choose from, and there is some differences between them, but for all intents and purposes, just go to normal. Now, what you're going to find here is basically just the base, or at least the starting area. And you're going to be able to interact with these crystals, and that's kind of like your vendor. So you start off with a limited amount of money, and you can equip yourself with, basic necessities that you might desire, depending on how you want to start it off, or if there's some sort of special item that they offer in the beginning that you really want to take advantage of. Now, it really just depends on you, on your playstyle, what you're actually going to try to build through your run. It depends on a whole bunch of factors. Mostly just what is available and what you can get. But usually in my first run, I like to specialize in some sort of weapon, because that usually tends to be the most random thing in the game. Just getting a good weapon, getting a solid foundation for actually getting through the stuff fast. Armor is great, but it's not going to get you through the game. It's not going to get you through the survival mode, in the time crunch that's basically provided. So usually picking a good weapon, and if they offer it, a good skill mod, is probably just the best selection that you can do early on. Now, besides weapons, obviously it does offer the skill mods, it does offer different armor pieces, there's different trinkets like the rings and the amulets, there's also some trait points that you can unlock, in addition to, like potions, consumables, that kind of stuff. Now, when you actually go into the game, it's completely random, so you don't really know what world you're going to get when you start out. And, of course, every time you jump to different worlds, you don't know what you're going to get. And I like this because it really reminds me of a nice combination of Underground and Division survival. So you get this kind of random feel in the different worlds, because the worlds are not based on any set layout. So instead of having a world that's completely designed by the developers, every piece, set in stone, this is kind of having multiple pieces that can all change. So it's a lot like Underground, where you have these different pieces that can all interlock together to create a new different world, right? And of course, the enemies and the bosses that go with that can all change. And now when you combine these random tile sets and this survival mode, you can kind of see where I'm going with how it's like Underground and like survival. Now, just to go over some of the little differences between Division survival and Remnant survival. In Division survival, obviously the main things were, the cold, so you had to deal with the different temperature, and you had to deal with the infection. So you had to constantly take the meds to slow down the progress so that you could actually get enough time to escape. And a lot of players did not like that. I mean, it's a looter-shooter RPG, and this time crunch doesn't necessarily feel great to everyone. And in fact, I didn't really like it. I mean, I didn't like Division 1 survival that much either, but the time crunch that they implemented with the whole infection thing didn't really make the game as desirable to play as people probably wished. There were some people that did like it. I'm not saying that it was completely out the window and terrible, but one of the biggest complaints that I saw regarding Division 1 survival was in fact just having that timer there that you could never escape. You could only survive for a certain period of time before you just ran out of meds and there was nothing you could do. So that was, a little bit annoying in case you really just wanted to play through and see how long you could live, In Remnant from the Ashes survival, the timer isn't related to how long you can survive. The timer is related to the difficulty of the enemies. So here on normal mode, every 6 minutes, the difficulty of the enemies is going to increase. So the longer that you take to get through levels, the longer that you take to beat bosses, the longer that you take to inventory your own gear or change builds in the world, the more difficult the enemies are going to get. So this kind of prioritizes you rushing through it so that you don't have more difficult enemies, so you don't have more difficult bosses. But of course, there eventually comes a time where you need to start kind of, being a little bit more selective, a little bit more, thoughtful, and have more planning on what your build is to go against a certain boss. So, there's kind of a battle there where should I be just scouring everything? Should I be trying to loot every single thing? Or should I just try to get through it as quickly as possible to, make the boss fight easier? Because, you could make the boss fight easy by getting the right gear, by getting the right loadout, by having the right, consumables. But of course, you could also make the boss fight easier by just getting to them faster. So a good combination of speed and looting is probably the best. But of course, if you just wanted to run through it as quickly as possible, that is feasible. And if you wanted to just loot everything, again, that is feasible. But of course, looting everything is a little bit riskier because you don't always know what you're going to get. For example, there's plenty of times where I farmed everything in a level because I was trying to desperately find a good weapon and I could not find anything. So I ended up not only not getting a good weapon, but I ended up increasing the difficulty even more with the crap weapons that I already had. So, there's some risk reward there. Sometimes the reward is definitely not worth the risk. Now, the other main difference between this survival and the Division survival, and this is probably actually the most important thing to actually get you to play this mode. In Division survival, there was no real reason to actually go through it. The only reason you had to play Division survival early on was because they had the Urban MDR, was the exclusive reward that you could get from there. So you couldn't get the weapon unless you earned it through survival. But then of course they changed it and made it so that you could unlock the weapon anywhere. And for looters, that's kind of a bad thing because you don't really have a reason to actually play this mode. So if you didn't necessarily enjoy it that much, you would never go back. And that would mean that survival was never populated. And that's one of the biggest problems that we saw with survival, just the lack of players for a large portion of its existence. This in a looter is not exactly acceptable to me. There should be unique reasons why you actually continue to go back to the mode. Not just because of you enjoying it, but because of other people enjoying it, right? If there is reasons for you to come back to something, then that gives the server's population. It means that other players can join in and get a chance to experience the actual game mode themselves and, have fun, right? If there's nothing to really work for, why are you playing it? And that really leaves the only option, well, I'm just playing for fun. Well, and for a lot of players in a looter shooter, playing just for fun isn't necessarily what they want to do. I mean, they could play for fun in anything. Why are they going to play for fun in something that doesn't actually give them any meaningful rewards? So, for example, they could farm some other, legendary mission or something a lot faster to get the rewards that they want. And that means that survival mode is mostly dead. Now, of course, there are a few players who are like, well, it's not about, finding the loot all the time. It's just about, enjoying my time playing, and that's fine. But that makes up a very small portion of the actual community who's playing a looter shooter. But what they've done in Remnant is they've actually tied different rewards to the survival mode. But these are not tied to an arbitrary RNG policy of just, not getting lucky no matter how many times you run it. You could run through Division survival, never have gotten the MDR, and then as soon as it comes out with the patch or update where they just make it all generic loot, and then you get it, wasting all that time that you spent in survival trying to get this stupid weapon. In Remnant, what they've done is they've tied different reward tiers to defeating bosses. So for example, if you defeat, 10 bosses, you get a reward. And now this isn't a single playthrough, right? It does get pretty difficult, after a couple bosses. But what they've done is they just combined all the boss, defeats that you have. So if you've managed to defeat, one boss in this playthrough, 2 bosses on this playthrough, 5 bosses on another playthrough, they add all those up. So once you reach 10 bosses, you get a reward. Once you reach, 25 bosses, you get a reward, and so on. I think it basically continues up to 100 bosses. So that is a pretty decent amount of play. I mean, depending on how focused you are on just getting all the rewards. So I mean, if the average run through for one boss is roughly, let's just say 30 minutes from starting the game to going all the way through, I mean, they could probably play it could probably provide the average person with at least a month of entertainment just trying to grind out these items. Of course, that this is just one single mode, so I mean, if you really wanted to get every single piece of loot, I mean, you're looking at a couple months of work. But that's nice because it's a guaranteed reward system, right? Whereas Division, that RNG isn't always fun. Just it kind of ruins the expectation of getting loot. You're going to extract so many caches on the helicopter, and none of them are going to be anything. It's going to be all useless junk that you're going to delete instantly. And so what incentive do you have to keep going? What is there that's driving you towards this mode? That's why survival was generally frowned upon for trying to farm anything. It was just slow, grindy, boring, very unproductive, right? You could do a mission in like 6 minutes and get the same amount of loot that you would from 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour in survival. It just wasn't worth it. And so some people might not have any real interest in getting everything in the game, but people who do definitely have something to look forward to. Now, of course, the layout of the survival mode, like I already said, underground survival combination, is fairly simple. You load into one map, kind of like a straight shot through to the exit of the level. You go into the second part of the level, and then after that second part, you generally go into a boss fight. Now, the first boss that you're going to encounter is usually a mini boss. So by that I mean not one of the hardest world bosses of the game. The mechanics are pretty similar to one of the stronger enemies that you encounter throughout the playthrough. However, as you continue to go through, you will start to encounter the stronger and more unique bosses of the game. And of course, the game will just continue to rotate through different bosses as you go further and further. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. I, again, just wanted to show you what this mode is about. If this would interest you, if you are a fan of Division 1 Survival, if you're just a fan of, kind of like the looter shooter RPG type games, customizing your own gear and your own loadouts and just kind of, experimenting with different things, I really think you're going to enjoy this game. If you're still, not convinced, hey, don't worry about it. I'm supporting this game. I'm, trying to convince you to support this game because I think that the team behind this has done a wonderful job considering their size. I mean, 10% the size of Massive, and they've put out an amazingly good product. Hey, that's something I can support, and I'm the kind of person that actually supports the good studios doing good work, whether I think the game is, specifically the best for me or not. Because, there is a short supply on good developers. Most of them are just, greedy garbage hounds, and they don't do a good job. They put out terrible products. They put out, misleading garbage information just to get people to buy their garbage. And to be honest, Gunfire Games, the creator of Remnant from the Ashes, deserves a lot of respect for what they've done. I think they've done an amazing job. I wish them the best, and I hope to see more of this type of stuff in the future. I hope to see, a lot more of this. And honestly, if they would make a more MMO open world type, Division style game, I think it would be amazing. I mean, especially with the setup that they have here, if they just expanded it a little bit more, that would probably be an amazing game. But either way, thank you guys for watching. If you still, want to see more playthrough, continue on to the end of the video. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Won't fit. fit.
Not enough room.